I have found almost without fail, the very next sentence out of their mouth is, well, it's not right all the time and it hallucinates.
Right. That is a really common concern for everyone. I think that's true. It's at the bottom of every page of AI that you ever look at. Right at the bottom of Claude or ChatGPT, it says, hey, you're using AI. This might be wrong.
Right.
So they're not running away from it.
It's not an incorrect observation, but because I don't know, because there are times where maybe I like to pick, right? So when I hear that, right, it's wrong often, it hallucinates. I'm like, oh, excellent. Give me an example. And crickets every time.
I feel like that opening line for every one of them is, this changes everything.
And we're back.
Veer, thank you for coming to Denver to do this in person.
I'm in person in Denver.
I know. I like it. And we've already had I'd say we had a pretty productive first day. We went around town a bit.
Had a little client meeting.
Had some client meetings and, talked about a lot of the things that we're probably going to touch on today. With regard to, what does AI look like out in the wild right now?
Right. Yeah. So, right. I think for our folks that are watching, right, it's welcome to Functional Executives Live, IRL even.
Yeah. I said that the other day to my son, and he thought it was the cringiest thing ever that I even knew that word. But that's probably been around longer than he's been alive.
I would think so.
Yeah, I think so too. But he just doesn't think I know anything. He's 13.
That's mine too. And yeah,
there you go.
I get told similar. So so here we are in Denver. We're hanging out. We're doing a little bit of kind of corporate planning for ourselves and working through some things. And we're talking today on Functional Executives about a lot of the topics we touch on, but we're talking about utilization. Today.
Yeah. And what does utilization mean? So if you use ChatGPT or Claude or one of these other tools, I use it for 80% of my work, or I use it for everything. I write all my emails that way. I'm using it constantly. What does that mean?
Well, I mean, maybe you are. Maybe you're using it a lot, but right, we kind of have talked about it's a little bit of a vanity metric.
It's 100% a vanity metric. It's a lot like impressions in advertising, at least in my opinion. They're directionally, they tell you whether or not there's momentum or something's happening. But what I really care about, especially in my seat as a CFO, is okay, but what fell out of the funnel?
Right.
You have 2 million impressions. Why do we only have 10 leads?
Right. And it's a metric of well, I use it a lot. Do you use it well? And I think that's what we're going to touch on today is the difference between whether you use it a lot or whether you use it well.
Yeah, I think one of the things I've talked about is utilization, doesn't necessarily equal value.
Right.
Value creation.
And utilization, we talked about last time, is a false metric that Amazon, other companies right now are paying a price tag for because they set that as the bar. Utilization.
Yeah. But so to be fair,
okay,
I think in some ways we all kind of did that, all of us, because, well, at least, in corporate environment, we did that because we needed to see that we were getting traction. It was like the first step towards adoption. The same with advertising. You have to get your face out there a ton.
Right.
It might not be the most effective advertising, but you can see that something is happening by the fact that you have a whole lot of impressions.
Right.
So there's activity. I think that's what usage really says is do I have activity? Okay. Yes, I have activity.
Okay. And so that is a good bar as far as it is, right? Journey of 1,000 miles or whatever. First step, you're using it.
Right.
Right. And nobody expects you to be a master on day one, right? Like Karate Kid, you got to wax on, wax off, paint the fence.
Yeah, 100%. And that's really what you're doing is you're just learning when you're focused on usage. I think it's really just, okay, am I familiar with the tool? Do I open it every day?
Right.
A lot of people open Excel every day and use the tool. I know I use Excel a lot as an example, but it is a good one because there's so much depth to that software. You you start at what is this thing? And then you go into, okay, I understand it. Now I can write some formulas and do some things. And then you can do some automation. And then you can really kind of make it a full blown system all within inside the software. And I think AI is a little bit synonymous.
Yes. No, like no one can even expect you to begin the journey of doing well at it until you have some familiarity, you know where the buttons are.
And you open it every day. I was actually just doing a project, that project that I was showing you.
Yeah.
And one of the things that kept happening was I had to go into another system and turn this thing on before I could ever use the system. And I didn't even want to like go any further on the project until I could fix that point where, okay, all I have to do is click the icon. And when I click the icon, it pops open and it's ready to go. I knew I wouldn't use the system if I didn't open it every day. And that was blocking me from opening it every day. So whether it's mental block or, an actual user interface block, it's like you can't have a block. So have we removed all the roadblocks just for you to click the little OpenAI or Claude icon? Okay, we can see you clicked it. We can see you did something in it. Now we're on the path. We've taken the first step.
Okay. So you take that first step, you use it every day, you open it up every day, you've started this journey where you have utilization. And now we ask this, I ask this question out at events, or I'm out having drinks with folks. I'm like, hey, this is what I'm working on anyway. Hey, random friend, acquaintance that I'm hanging out with, do you use AI? Yeah. Well, what do you do? And normally, I either get somebody who is a tinkerer and will go down a rabbit hole of experimental things that they're doing, or I get I use it from time to time. I've used it to research something.
Right. And that is pretty much how people are using it at that level. I think maybe some of the research, but at that level, I think you got like a really expensive, kind of spell checker.
It's Google Plus.
Right. It's Google Plus.
Yeah. Right.
I think that's where you are there. So just using it doesn't really get all the value that you could get out of it.
And by far, the folks that I talk to that fall into that camp of like, well, I kind of use it from time to time, I have found almost without fail, the very next sentence out of their mouth is, well, it's not right all the time and it hallucinates.
Right. That's a really common concern for everyone. I think that's true. It's at the bottom of every page of AI that you ever look at, right at the bottom of Claude or ChatGPT, it says, hey, you're using AI. This might be wrong.
Right.
So they're not running away from it.
It's not an incorrect like observation, but cause I don't know, cause there are times where maybe I'm, I like to like pick, right? So when I hear that, right? Oh, it's wrong often. It hallucinates. I'm like, oh, excellent. Give me an example. And crickets every time.
Yeah, they've read an article. They've heard from other people it's wrong all the time.
Yeah.
Maybe there's fear about losing jobs and, not having the time to learn. I don't think it's as much fear as I think it's just people have time constraints.
Yeah.
But that's my take.
But I do think that people have anchored, right? And once, we talk about like, in sales and other things that, once you can get somebody anchored to a price or something like that, that's the pivot foot.
Yeah. And they've got people anchored right now to, oh, this stuff never is right. And it produces, they scared everybody with all the attorney stories at the beginning.
Right.
So utilization doesn't necessarily equate to an output that's worth anything.
Right.
That's 100% sure. So the other thing that you hear about all the time on, I don't know, YouTube or even in, the press, most of the press is, well, what kind of tool are you using? Yeah. Are you using the latest and greatest?
Right. As we're recording this right now, right? Like I think yesterday, Anthropic was finally able to release Stable 5 and
with a lot more guardrails.
With more guardrails. And this was last, at the time that we're recording this, this was, kind of a locked away thing for several weeks now. And
working with the government back and forth.
Right. And so the question is for a lot of folks, well, were you waiting? Were you waiting for that to because you didn't want to embark on the journey with yesterday's tool? And I think the argument that we're presenting to everybody today is that the underlying model that you're using, the prompt that you're writing, that we've talked about, right? And that we've talked about giving the tool context and managing the context window, the memory of the tool well, right? And then we've talked about a little bit about OpenClaw and Hermes, and and just whether you use Codex like me or Cowork like you do.
And those are all basically harnesses.
The harnesses, right?
Right. And so it was kind of prompts, got to be good at those. Context, got to be really good at doing that, and use MCPs and tools to connect, to manage your context. And now it's, here's a harness. Now we're going to get the AI really going for long runs at a time. And
it's going to work on something and finish, right? It's going to just grind away at a problem. And so
let's say you're the best prompter. You've figured out all the tips and tricks, or you're really good at managing context, or you understand harnesses and you're using Cowork or Codex. Okay. So now what? You're using it a lot.
Yeah.
It's really, you could use Cowork, Codex. What have you built? What value have you created with the product?
Right. We have lived in a world where, we've worked hard to solve problems. People bring us problems, we solve the problem. And the joke often when you have like a vendor come to your door and they want to sell you something is that, they've got, it's a hammer in search of a nail, right? Right. And nobody's asking you whether you want to, hang up a picture or, you got a whole bunch of bolts that you need to ratchet, right? But I got this great hammer.
Yeah. I've felt that way for a long time about products, these product management or these work OSs.
Sure.
I felt that way from the beginning. It's like, well, this company has no processes. Your hammer is to kind of codify process and make it more streamlined. But the company doesn't have any processes or controls to begin with.
Right.
Where should they start? Probably not with a hammer. They don't even have a nail to hit in yet.
Right.
We're working on something totally different.
So, I think, which to folks who might be listening to us, there might be the fact that this is reductive. We are saying that you need to work on real business problems, right? Solve a problem using these tools. And what we're saying, I don't know if it really is the quiet part or saying it out loud, but is the fact that no one cares or should care right now about the tech stack that you're using, whether it's Anthropic, whether it's Google. It'll matters some, but what are you actually trying to solve?
Yeah. What are you doing with it?
Right.
I feel like a lot of people use it to do a lot of their routine work, but then they're skipping over the most important part, which is sitting with it for a while. Okay. So now it got done really fast. I still see a lot of people pushing that work out as their own.
Yeah.
And kind of taking credit for it and not sitting with it, not understanding it. If you're a quick learner, you're going to understand quickly. You're going to be able to, talk to whatever it is. If it's something that's deep in you've done for 25 years, you're going to be able to speak to whatever that topic is pretty naturally. But if it's something kind of new, so let's say you're doing an analysis on a marketing campaign.
Right.
And you've got to interpret the data. It's pretty easy to interpret the data right now. You run it through XYZ LLM, analysis comes out, and then you send it. I feel like you skipped the most important step in there. And I see that a lot.
Right. The judgment.
Yeah, the judgment, the discernment. Absolutely.
Right. That was that metric that was is impressions and overall number of impressions and how many, leads were qualified and became qualified leads and then got and closed as business. Is that what ultimately we care, but do we care that it was people aged 45 to 50 that lived in these particular states from this particular socioeconomic group? And that's where our marketing dollars need to go? Or,
well, and if you get all that, and that's rich data. So I don't want to kill just the data. That's rich data. But okay, first of all, let's assume in this scenario that you checked it and it's accurate? Because we just talked about a minute ago.
Yeah.
Hey, was the AI wrong? Did it just come up with citations, or did it, pick something from 2015?
Right.
And if it's from 2015, it's out. It shouldn't have made it. It wouldn't have made your criteria if you were doing a Google search and looking it up.
Right.
So, and we should talk about how these models are trained and like when the training data stops at some point.
Yeah.
I don't want to go on that sidetrack right now, but okay. So if it gives you all that data, that's great.
Right.
But did you take the time to say, how does that apply to my business? Like, what are the insights that I can pull out of this? And even if you're not going to write those down yourselves, did you ask the next question in AI? Hey, thank you for the data. I asked you for the data. You produced it. Now I need insights. I need to know in my convenience store chain, how does this data apply? 45 to 50 years old doesn't mean anything unless you know that 45 to 50-year-olds make one more stop on average to the gas station than most other people. And then what reason do they do that?
Right. And that whole last 30 seconds of thinking is independent of the model, the harness, the prompt. That's the judgment piece that I think is getting lost in the noise in the conversation about, do I have the latest and greatest toy? What model? Which is good? Which one is government approved? Which one is safe? Which one has security? Which one, has the most market share right now?
It's not just, hey, use it a lot.
Right.
And I think you kind of came to that realization, and you can talk to that.
So that's a good one. Like this is me, like maybe looking out at the viewers or that might watch it, or saying to you, like, I'm sorry. Like, I think I've been operating, frankly, on a little bit of a bad assumption. And I think I've really realized it maybe over the last couple of weeks.
What was that assumption?
My assumption was AI and AI tools are new and you should use them. And if you can just get a few more at-bats in, if you can just get a few more reps in the gym, like that muscle is going to get built and it's going to enlighten you to what is possible with AI and with Claude and with Codex and with Gemini.
Yeah. So was there a moment? So you had a realization. Was there a moment you had the realization, and then like, where are you at now in the way that you think about it?
So as I talked with folks and I started having more conversations with, clients and prospects about the work that we're doing. And I would ask this question, right? How are you using it? And they're like, oh, I have an, and I would get some really good answers from people of like, I have an account, I signed up a few months ago, paying $20 a month. I'm like, good for you. We're using Claude Teams in the office and we're using it. And then I'm like, show me how you use it. And they're like, oh, well, I had it, write this email, or I copied this email into it and I asked it to like make it better.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Job description.
Or a job description.
Or code.
Yeah. But then, right. I mean, like I would push, right. I'm like, awesome, good, you're using it, right? I would get excited, and then I'm like, how did you give it, start giving it taste and judgment? Did you upload your brand guidelines, or did you give it some type of sample document, or and I would get really quizzical looks like, why would I do that? Like, it gives really good answers, or or they're like, well, it gives me an answer, and then I kind of work from it. It's a good brainstorming thing. And I'm like, oh, but you're using it often. They're like, oh yeah, all the time. It's really cool. And I'm like, okay, that's exciting, but I think you're missing the real value add of using it. And I thought the next part of the conversation, right, the evolution of I use it every day turns into, well, what do you do every day that you don't need to be doing anymore? Mm-hmm. Right? What is the thing that is a process within your company that you have decided can be replaced or not. We've jumped around that a little bit. It's not about replacing people, but the processes can be like replaced by overnight processes, daily processes, some simple things that you just don't have to do every day. Now you can go do something different, and you can spend more time working with people rather than doing administrative tasks.
Yeah, or spending time, even, I mean, like, sometimes the person that you can work with is you.
Yeah.
You can spend more time in deep thought, really, challenging. I think the best thing is when it's a sparring partner, and if you can get your mind into challenging it, be a little bit more skeptical. I might have a leg up. I think legal people probably, lawyers probably have a little bit of a leg up because they're trained skeptics.
They are, and they have a lot to lose. And so, we don't want to be like kind of heavy handed with like everybody should use it. And, you're dumb if you don't. I know a lot of attorneys, Westlaw, one of the tools that a lot of attorneys use, has built a lot of AI powered features within their tool set. And attorneys are using that.
Yeah.
Right. And so now they've got tools that people have built that are curated for them and handle some of the risk.
Yeah.
I've got some friends that are journalists. They're also not skeptical, but they're a little reticent, right? Because, being called out on a bad fact, right? Something that you reported as fact is that's
career ending.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, for attorneys, I mean, it's career ending at worst, and it's like significant reputational damage,
right,
at best. Even if the blast radius is small, like there's a few people that are going to be like, and that's out there in the ether now.
So you said, did you figure this out one day? I'm like, over the last, these conversations have led me to be like, I think I was just giving too much. It's not credit, but I think I was trusting or hoping too much that exposure was enough. And so we talked about this the other night, you and I, and the thing is like, your son, my son, I could hand them both an algebra book, and I can put it in their room, and I could leave that book in their room for the next year. Doesn't make them awesome at algebra.
No.
Right. Osmosis or diffusion of the material. They can't just read it.
No. What are they? So they have to apply it.
Correct.
And they have to try and sometimes fail. I tell my kids all the time, if you're making mistakes, that means you're headed in the right direction.
Right.
I've told them that their entire life. It is critical that you just be safe about it. Do it. That's why I think there's so much wisdom in the folks that say, try this on personal tasks before you go into business trying it. But every developer out there has to do Hello World before they, attack a module for a Fortune 500 company. It starts someplace. And you got to build it over time.
And my first, back early in my career, Visual Basic program, your first cash flow model, how proud are you of that?
Oh, yeah.
Today.
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
the first one?
The first one.
No, I mean, anything I did the first time in my life, I'm pretty embarrassed at.
And so
shouldn't be.
Well,
I shouldn't be embarrassed.
We shouldn't have,
No, we should just say, oh, that was me learning.
Right. I learned.
Nobody thinks that way in real life. And that's why I think it's so hard. The older you get, the worse that gets too.
Absolutely. But you're building competency, right? That is why our kids do homework, right? To get it, to practice it, right? To get those reps in, but those are real reps that lead to a grade that then they can see whether they learned it or not. And so I think the realization piece that applies to the AI piece is it's not just reps, but it is a little bit of curriculum.